Hi grade 5s, welcome to another recorded math lesson. Today's title is Halving and Doubling Fractions. Our learning intentions and success criteria are: I am learning to develop number sense so that I can demonstrate an understanding of fractions. I'll know I have it when I can either half or double a recipe. This is the world's best peanut butter cookies recipe that I'm going to be using today. I'm going to use half a cup of smooth peanut butter, a quarter cup of sugar, and 1 egg. And I'm going to heat my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. While that's heating up, I'm going to mix all my ingredients together. I'm going to roll them into 12 balls and put them on my baking sheet, and then I'll flatten them with a fork so that they're not crazy round cookies. And I'm gonna bake them for 20 minutes and then put them on a wire rack to cool off. Welcome to Baking with Mrs. Henzie. I am super excited about this little video that I'm making for you guys today because I know a lot of my videos have been kind of boring. You don't even get to see my face. It's just me writing on the screen. And I really miss you guys a lot, and I wish I could share my cookies with you. But unfortunately I'll have to settle for just sharing them with my husband because he's the only one that I get to see day in and day out. Lucky him. So I am making a batch of peanut butter cookies today, like I mentioned. But unfortunately my batch only makes 12 cookies, and I could eat 12 cookies by myself, and my husband desperately wants to share with me. So I'm actually going to double my recipe so that there are enough cookies for Kyle to share as well. And you might choose to half one of your recipes, and at the end of this video I'm going to actually show you how to half the original recipe, just so that you can have the experience of both doubling and halving. For your assignment, I only need you to do one or the other, so it's up to you, whichever you decide. Your fraction strips are going to be one of the most helpful tools that you can use for this assignment. And also your parents would probably love to help you if you're actually going to do any of this baking. I don't need you to do any of the baking, but if you do, please post a video because it would be awesome to see that. But just so we're clear, that is not required of you. Another quick thing that I wanted to mention is that on your Google Classroom, I've actually added a document that will help you with converting some things if necessary. So you might find a recipe online that is talking about like milliliters instead of cups, which is totally fine, and that's totally standard. And in fact, in Canada, we prefer to use that kind of measurement. But for the purposes of fractions, using cups and half a cup and a quarter of a cup and an eighth of a cup, those are actually more useful in terms of learning fractions. I like to use fraction strips when I'm baking because it makes it really easy to show the equivalent fractions that I'm working with. So for this recipe, I know that I need a quarter of a cup of sugar. But because I'm doubling the recipe, I actually need 2/4 of a cup of sugar. So I'm going to color in my 2/4 right here, nice and beautifully like that. And this way I can very easily see that 2/4 of a cup actually matches up perfectly with 1/2. So for my recipe, my doubled recipe, I'm going to need 1/2 of a cup of sugar. Now I'll erase this so that it'll be easy to see. I also know that for my single recipe, I need to have half a cup of peanut butter. Now I'm going to double that so that I have 2/2 of a cup of peanut butter. Color it in nice and beautifully. And this way, whoa, I can super easily see that I actually need 1 whole cup of peanut butter. Now for my recipe, I also need 1 egg, and that one's super easy to double. 1 times 2, we know, is 2, and therefore I need 2 eggs. So first things first, I want to make sure that I have everything that I need. I have all of my supplies laid out and ready to go, including, but not limited to, my cat measuring cups. Aren't they just the cutest? And of course I have all my ingredients ready to go. These ones are already measured out and ready to just mix together and get in the oven and then get in my mouth. I know you saw my cat measuring cups, and I do love those, but I'm actually going to use these different measuring cups that I have. They're made of silicone and they look like pretty flat. They're really easy to store, but they actually pop out like this so that you can use them. And so this is actually a cup. You can kind of see, maybe I'll push it in so you can see it better. So that says 1 because it's 1 cup. This one says half. There we go, because it's half a cup. This one says a third. You guessed it, it is the third of a cup. This one I'm not going to be using today. And also a quarter for a quarter of a cup. So now that I know I have everything that I need, it's time to start mixing. This is my favorite part. I've just combined all of my ingredients into one bowl so that it will be easy to mix together. Here we go. It looks so creamy and delicious. So I know that my recipe is going to yield 24 cookies because the original recipe was 12 cookies and I have doubled it. So I have this baking sheet and I'd like you guys to think about how I can arrange my cookies on this baking sheet so that it has 24 cookies, but it's not like just randomly all over the place. So basically what I'm looking for you to do is decide what array I should use when I am making my cookies, when I'm placing my cookies on the sheet. So there were a few different options you could have come up with. One of them was, of course, 2 by 12, but then I might have had to have a really long baking sheet that was a little bit skinnier. Another option was a 3 by 8 array, but again, that one would maybe have been a little bit longer than it was, and a little skinnier. Hopefully you guys came up with the idea to do a 4 by 6 array, like this one, because I think it was probably the easiest way to fit all the cookies on and not have them just thrown on there all over the place. So now I'm going to take my trusty dingle hopper, Little Mermaid reference for those of you who know what that is. I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to just flatten out the cookies so that they don't stay round and kind of chunky when they go in the oven. Okay, I'm ready to put them in the oven. So our cookies are in the oven now and we're going to wait 20 minutes while they bake. 20 minutes has passed and I have taken my cookies out of the oven. Now I'm going to wait for 5 minutes while my cookies cool on the baking sheet, and then I'm going to put them on a wire rack to cool completely. And now I'm going to eat all the cookies. Okay, I guess I'll share with Kyle. I hope you enjoyed my baking video. It was really fun to make. Like I promised at the beginning, I'm also going to show you how to half the recipe, just so you can have the experience of seeing both of those things done, both halving and doubling. So this one's a little bit less scientific at this point. I will teach you how to do it a little bit more mathematically. But if I want to look at my half a cup of peanut butter, whoops, let's keep that in the same spot. My half a cup of peanut butter like this, I'm actually just gonna take a little look at what about half of that would be, and I can see that it would line up perfectly with a quarter of a cup. So if I were to half my peanut butter cookie recipe, I would have only a quarter of a cup of smooth peanut butter. I'm gonna erase this just so it's a little easier to see now. And then if I were to half my recipe, I would start off with a quarter of a cup of sugar, and about half of that would, about half of a quarter of a cup of sugar would leave me with about an eighth of a cup of sugar for the halved recipe. So I'll cross that off, make it an eighth of a cup of sugar, and then half of an egg. Obviously, half of a whole we know is 1/2. And so I would use half an egg. It's hard to do, but it can be done. So if you did want to half your recipe and only make 6 cookies, that would be the way to do it. So your assignment for this lesson is to find a recipe on the internet, or even one that you have in your own house would be perfect, and then either choose to double or half that recipe. You're going to submit it on Google Classroom, and it's not due until Monday. Have fun!